Beneath the vibrant canopy of ancient trees, whispers of an urgent plea echo in the air. As the jungle withers under unseen hands, one heart beats slower, yet louder than all the destruction surrounding it. Will the cry of a dying spirit be enough to rouse the souls it once protected? In the heart of Africa, a dense jungle unfolds like a living tapestry, vibrant and lush, yet silently mourning its impending doom. Towering trees with emerald canopies stretch toward the sky, their trunks adorned with winding vines while the air is heavy with the intoxicating scent of damp earth and blooming orchids. Exotic birds flit through the foliage, their calls echoing like melodies in the soothing symphony of rustling leaves and trickling streams. This ancient sanctuary bears witness to nature's intricate intricacies, a fragile ecosystem nurtured over countless generations. Yet beneath the beauty lies a chilling reality. The jungle is on the brink of collapse, marked by telltale signs of devastation, encroaching like shadows from civilization. Among the hidden paths of this sanctuary resides Quito, a weary ape with wise, deep-set eyes reflecting sorrow and resilience. Once a vibrant symbol of untamed freedom, Quito now bears the weight of the sanctuary's plight. His long, gnarled fingers grasp at the dwindling hope within him as he senses the encroachment of humans, machines roaring to life at the fringes of his world. Encased in a shroud of illness, he feels the ebb and flow of life, his very existence entwined with the fate of the jungle he has called home. Quito's unyielding spirit becomes an urgent cry for help as he clings to life, drawing strength from the dwindling flora and fauna around him. A seasoned ranger named Jack, in his late 40s, wanders these treacherous, winding paths of the jungle, his heart heavy with the memories of better days. Having once roamed as an intrepid adventurer, Jack now feels the pang of disillusionment gnawing at his enthusiasm. The relentless encroachment of corporations onto sacred lands has stifled his deep-seated love for the wilderness, leaving him grappling with feelings of impotence. Driven by a profound desire to protect the last vestiges of unspoiled nature, Jack feels a flicker of hope ignite within him when he receives a cryptic message, an echoing call from Quito, a plea emerging from the depths of despair. It stirs something long buried inside him, setting him on a collision course with the corporate giant poised to eradicate everything he holds dear. The stage is set, the dust of confrontation brewing on the horizon, leaving an urgent question lingering in the air. Will Jack rise to answer the call before it's too late? The sun filtered through the dense canopy above, creating a tapestry of light and shadow that played across the rainforest floor. Leaves rustled gently in the warm breeze, releasing fragrant scents of damp earth and wild orchids into the humid air. The sanctuary, a hidden gem deep in the heart of the African jungle, teemed with life, brimming with colorful birds darting through ferns, insects buzzing, and the occasional distant call of a howler monkey echoing from treetops. But there was an unsettling stillness now, an ominous premonition hanging in the air, as if the jungle itself could sense the impending threat to its tranquility. As Jack navigated the thick underbrush, his rugged boots sinking slightly into the soft soil, he felt an all too familiar pang of nostalgia. He remembered the days of unbounded adventure when he challenged the wilds without fear. Now at nearly 50, he bore the weight of disillusionment. The joyous life he once knew had morphed into a relentless fight against corporate encroachment. Pausing to take a deep breath, he scanned the surroundings, taking in the greenery that had been his refuge, yet now felt more fragile than ever. In the midst of this verdant paradise, Jack's heart raced when he stumbled upon a small clearing, draped in sunlight, where Quito awaited. The sight of the elderly ape, his fur graying and eyes dulled with time, sent a shiver down Jack's spine. Quito had summoned him here, and in the creature's persistent gaze, Jack sensed an urgency that transcended words. The ape stretched a weary arm toward him, expressive yet frail, and Jack approached cautiously, kneeling to meet Quito's sorrowful eyes. "I hear you, old friend, but what can I do?" he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Suddenly, a cacophony of noise erupted from the jungle's edge. Jack's head snapped around as construction vehicles rumbled in the distance, an unmistakable sign of the devastation to come. This invasive crescendo of machinery, led by none other than Margot and her relentless crew, was something Jack had feared since he first heard rumors of their plans. His breath stilled as trepidation clawed at his gut. The sanctuary faced its final stand, and he could not ignore the implications for Quito, the jungle, and those who called it home. Margot's cold, calculated ambition threatened to shatter the fragile peace, and the battle, it seemed, had already begun. The stakes were higher than ever, and with Quito's health declining, time was no longer on their side. The thick humidity of the jungle clung to Jack's skin, a relentless reminder of both the beauty and danger surrounding him. Every rustle of leaves carried the whispers of Quito's distress, strong yet waning. But behind him, the voice of Margot sliced through the cacophony of nature like a jagged steel blade. "I can't impact change, Jack," Margot declared with chilling confidence as she surveyed the vibrant sanctuary, a battlefield brimming with life that she and her corporation sought to dismantle. "You're wasting your energy on a dying ape. This is progress." Her eyes glimmered with a fierce ambition that had crushed mountains and smothered forests in its path. "Progress?" Jack shot back, his fists clenched at his sides. "You're talking about a grave, Margot. The jungle isn't just another resource for your corporation to exploit. It's alive." His heart thudded steadily with the desperation of a man who had spent decades wandering the wild, feeling more at home in the embrace of towering trees than the antiseptic atmosphere of corporate boardrooms. Margot smirked, folding her arms as if Jack's impassioned plea were a mere inconvenience. "Alive? Look around you. This sanctuary is eroding. The world moves on, and so must we. You're standing against a wave, Jack, a tsunami of progress, and it's going to swallow you whole." Her dismissive tone clashed with Jack's raw conviction, amplifying the simmering tension between them. As he turned to gauge the villagers, the shy glances and wary looks sent a pang through his chest. Here they stood, caught in the crossfire of vision and greed. A few were intrigued by Jack's attempts to gather support, but others, fueled by promises of jobs and infrastructure, simply saw Margot as their savior. "They see your corporate profits and smell opportunity," Jack said quietly, almost to himself, as uncertainty washed over him. "They don't see the bigger picture." "Then enlighten them," Margot shot back, amusement dancing in her eyes. "Tell them how a dying ape is worth more than a steady income. Tell them how your noble ideals will put food on their tables. Go on. I'm dying to hear it." Her mockery highlighted Jack's vulnerability, the growing weight of doubt pressing against his chest. "Stop it!" shouted a voice from the crowd, a young woman named Amina. "You don't know what you're talking about. This jungle, these animals, they matter to us." Anger flared in her eyes, a stark contrast to the indifference radiating from Margot. Jack felt a fleeting rush of hope, but Margot dismissed Amina with a wave. "You think you can hide behind dewy-eyed sentiment? This is business, not a nature documentary. People have mouths to feed. People have hearts that need safeguarding too," Jack countered. The argument shifted, reflecting the very core of the conflict between them. Humanity versus exploitation, the struggle to save what still breathed versus the mechanical push of capitalism. "This isn't just about Quito," he continued, seeking to reach beyond their anger. "It's about everything that's at risk. If we don't stand now, there will be nothing left to protect." The resonance of his voice lifted tangible conviction into the air, fluttering the hopes of those listening. Margot's focus sharpened, sensing the tension shift. "What will you do when progress marches in? Don't make this personal. Don't let your attachments cloud your judgment." "What's at stake here is personal," Jack shot back fiercely, his voice cracking under the weight of emotion. "This is about life, about what we owe to this world that nurtures us. And if I have to risk everything to protect it, then so be it." The atmosphere around them thickened, caught between Jack's impassioned resolve and Margot's relentless pragmatism. A storm was brewing in that sacred jungle, one that signaled the showdown of ideals, each one as fierce as the wild waters that cascaded down the cliffside nearby. As the sun dipped below the gnarled silhouettes of the trees, casting an ominous orange hue across the jungle, Jack's heart raced with apprehension. Keto's condition was worsening, every day igniting the urgency within him. Yet the villagers seemed to scatter under the weight of indecision. The impending demolition of the sanctuary meant that they were fighting not just for Keto, but for their own futures. Jack remembered Keto's frail voice resonating in his mind. "You are my last hope." Now standing before a mesh of skeptics, he felt an unfamiliar ache of vulnerability. Jack gathered his small band of wildlife enthusiasts and activists at a clearing just outside the sanctuary. Their faces, illuminated by the soft glow of their lanterns, were a blend of determination and uncertainty. "We can't let Margot take this from us." "From Keto," he began, feeling the fire of urgency rise within him. "She's not just an enemy. She's a symbol of everything we're fighting against. The greed that threatens nature, our home." But among the group, a local farmer named Amara voiced her doubts. "And what if we fail, Jack? What if Margot's promises of jobs and advances are real? What if pushing back gets us nothing but heartbreak?" The murmurs of agreement trickled through the group, and frustration flared in Jack's stomach. He could see the hope flashing away from their eyes, snuffed out by fear. Before he could respond, a loud rumble interrupted their gathering. The lumbering trucks filled with workers belonging to Margot's company arrived, their engines growling like a pack of wolves on the hunt. Jack's pulse quickened. It was today or never. "We have to act now. We need to make sure our story is heard," he declared, but uncertainty laced his voice. He'd spent years battling his own internal demons, and now he faced an external giant more intimidating than he had imagined. With the sun now fully set and darkness wrapping around them like a shroud, Jack and his motley crew marched towards the heart of the sanctuary. Their misgivings echoed like footsteps in the stillness. When they arrived at the clearing where Keto's clan once frolicked, they were met with the ominous lights of Margot's men, who were already surveying the area for their project. "This is it, folks. Remember Keto. Remember why we're here." Jack inhaled deeply, trying to stave off the churning in his gut. Margot's sharp voice cut through the quiet night air like a blade. "You're being foolish, Jack. You and your band of misfits think you can defeat real progress?" The disdain in her tone was palpable. She stood with calculated confidence, arms crossed, surrounded by her henchmen. "Don't you understand? Nature is weak. It must be tamed, managed, like a feral beast." A current of resentment surged through Jack, igniting his passion. "You don't get to play God with this jungle. Keto deserves to fight as much as you want to profit." Just as he finished his protest, he heard a rustle behind him. The activists turned, their expressions shifting from defiance to confusion, fear quirking their brows. Keto emerged from the shadows, his frail form illuminated by the harsh lights from the trucks. The frail ape's presence, a bittersweet beacon amidst chaos, galvanized the crowd. Yet the gleam in Margot's eyes darkened. "So, the creature crawls to center stage. You're going to regret this, Jack." A tension-soaked silence hung in the air, thick enough to choke on. Jack stumbled over his emotions. The battle had begun, and he wondered if they were all marching towards a victory or their own demise. Would the sight of Keto unite them, or would the fear of losing more drive the villagers to choose Margot in the end? As the struggle loomed closer, the question lingered. Could hope prevail in a world so overrun by giants? The sun beat down mercilessly on the clearing, painting the vibrant foliage in vivid gold and shadowing the faces of those who had gathered. Jack stood at the forefront of the small protest, his heart pounding as he faced the oncoming threat. Margot's crew was moving in, bulldozers rumbling like thunder across the jungle floor, their engines roaring with the promise of destruction. The clamor heightened, drowning out the cries for help that echoed from Keto's crumbling sanctuary. "Jack, we can't let them do this," shouted Mari, a fierce local activist. She clenched her fists, determination blazing in her eyes. The villagers who stood behind her looked on uncertainly, tension thick in the air, while Margot's corporate workers eyed them with disdain. "Stay strong, everyone," Jack shouted, forcing his voice over the din. His gaze swept across those gathered, eyes wide with worry, some holding makeshift signs painted with "Save Keto" and "Preserve Our Home." Together, they were a fragile force against the colossal company that threatened everything they cherished. "We have to show them that we won't be silenced." As if summoned by their plight, Keto appeared at the edge of the clearing, a silhouette of weary strength. His movement was labored, but his presence commanded attention. Jack's breath caught in his throat at the sight of the fading giant. Keto, he whispered, both in awe and pain. The ape, though frail, stood resolutely before Margot's advancing machinery, as if embodying the spirit of the sanctuary. Margot stepped forward, a cruel smile playing on her lips. Look at this pathetic display, Jack. These people are just clinging to a fantasy. There's no future in this jungle when they could have a thriving community right at their doorstep. Her arrogance cut through the air, igniting the anger that had been simmering among the villagers. Is that what you call progress? Jack shot back, emotion surging within him. These people have lived in harmony with this jungle for generations. Keto is dying because of threats like you. He pointed an accusatory finger toward the machinery. At that moment, a whispered wind rustled through the trees, as if the jungle itself was agreeing with him. No one wants to hear about old legends when there's money to be made. Margot's voice was sharp, an edge of mockery lacing her words as she gestured toward her team. This is the real world. Just then, Keto let out a soulful call that reverberated through the clearing, breaking the tension momentarily. Racked by illness, the ape represented the last vestiges of a world inextricably linked to the villagers. The air thickened with raw emotion, as the eyes of the villagers filled with tears, realization dawning in their hearts. Enough, Jack shouted, turning to the crowd. We cannot let ourselves be divided. This isn't just about Keto, it's about our future, our identity. Jack's voice rose with passion, reverberating through the crowd, igniting their dormant spirit. I refuse to let Margot destroy what remains of our home. He took a step forward, heart racing. Keto's strength is within us. Let his cry be the truth that unites us. At that moment, a clear turning point, solidarity bloomed among the villagers. They stood taller, mindful of their own power, edging forward together despite the looming bulldozers. The heat of the confrontation simmered, charging the air with raw conviction as the realization settled. They could not remain silent witnesses to the noise of greed. Jack knew that the fight only began with wounded pride, but the beating heart of the jungle pulsed through them now, a collective resilience against overwhelming odds. They were David, and together they would face their Goliath. Jack stood at the edge of the sanctuary, the air pulsing with a renewed vibrancy. The aftermath of the protest breathed life into the jungle, a place once teetering on the brink of devastation, now brimming with hope. Margot's plans lay in ruins, her corporation thwarted by the unity of voices that had risen against her greed. Nearby, Keto, fragile yet strong, perched atop a low branch, watching something, a flicker of movement, below. A small group of children from the village played, laughter echoing through the trees. His heart swelled with unexpected joy at this simple scene. Look at them, Jack, a villager noted, her eyes glistening. They are free to play here, like we were once. Inspired by Keto, Jack had become more than just a ranger. He was now a leader, a connector of hearts. The coalition he nurtured fostered trust among the villagers, bridging a gap that once seemed insurmountable. They organized cleanup days, wildlife monitoring, and education initiatives to respect the jungle, transforming adversities into common goals. Remember, we are all guardians of the sanctuary. Every action counts, he said during a recent gathering, the weight of past doubts lifting. The villagers nodded in agreement, their faces radiant with newfound purpose. As he glanced up at Keto, Jack understood not just the struggle of one dying ape, but the resilience of an entire ecosystem. The struggle had brought everyone together, teaching them that empathy and collaboration could be the roots of profound change. In that realization, Jack saw his own journey reflected, a transformation from the isolated ranger to a committed advocate, driven by the pulsing heartbeat of the jungle. With every step forward, he embraced the lesson that even the smallest voice matters in the fight for justice and preservation.